Henry VIII told her their marriage was over. She told him it wasn't. Then she told the Pope. Then she told Europe. One woman's refusal split England from Rome and rewrote the religion of a nation. She didn't mean to, she was just trying to save her marriage. History remembers her as Henry's first wife. The one he divorced. The one who gave him a daughter when he needed a son. That's technically true. It's also almost entirely the wrong story. Catherine of Aragon was a trained diplomat, fluent in 5 languages, daughter of the most powerful monarchs in Europe, and arguably the most formidable political operator of her generation. This is her story, not a footnote to Henry's, the protagonist of her own. Born December 16, 1485. Her parents, Ferdinand of Aragon and Isabella of Castile, the monarchs who funded Columbus, expelled the Moors from Granada, and built the most powerful empire on earth. She wasn't raised to be decorative, she was raised to rule. Isabella of Castile was one of the most powerful monarchs in Europe in her own right. She led armies. She reformed the church, she negotiated treaties with kings twice her size in power, and she made absolutely sure her youngest daughter understood exactly how power worked. By 16, Catherine spoke Spanish, Latin, French, Greek and English. She'd studied theology, philosophy and statecraft. The most thoroughly educated young woman in Europe. Isabella didn't just educate her daughters, she took them on campaign. Catherine grew up watching her mother direct sieges, inspect fortifications, negotiate with ambassadors twice her age. By the time Catherine left Spain, she had already watched a woman run a kingdom up close, for years. That was the education that mattered most. She left Spain at 16 to marry Arthur, Prince of Wales. She arrived in England in 1501. Arthur was 15. They married that November in a ceremony of extraordinary magnificence at St. Paul's Cathedral. 5 months later, Arthur was dead. Sweating sickness. Possibly tuberculosis. The accounts differ. What they agree on is that Catherine nearly died too. Seriously ill for months afterward. She recovered. 17 years old, widowed in a foreign country, and entirely dependent on a father-in-law, mainly concerned with whether her dowry would need to go back to Spain. Henry VII couldn't decide what to do with her. For 7 years Catherine lived in a kind of diplomatic limbo. Not quite a princess, not quite a widow. Kept in poverty, unable to return home, unable to remarry, while her father and father-in-law argued endlessly about money. 7 years that taught her exactly how expendable women were in the political calculations of men. She filed that away. She'd use it later. Henry VII died in April 1509. His 18-year-old son became Henry VIII, and one of his first acts as king was to marry Catherine of Aragon. Whether it was genuine feeling or political calculation, it was probably both. What's documented is that 7 years of waiting ended overnight, from poverty and obscurity to Queen of England in a matter of weeks. Crowned beside Henry at Westminster Abbey, June 1509. Contemporaries described her as beautiful, composed, and radiantly happy. 23 years old. And immediately, an active political partner, not just a consort. 1513. Henry sailed for war in France. He left Catherine as regent of England, not a figurehead. An actual governing regent, managing the council, raising troops, handling a crisis he wasn't even there to see coming. Scotland invaded the north while Henry was away. English forces under the Earl of Surrey met them at Flodden Field. The Scottish king, James IV, was killed. Catherine wrote to Henry describing the victory. She sent him a piece of the enemy king's bloodied coat captured on the battlefield. As a trophy. This was not a passive woman waiting for her husband to come home. Between 1510 and 1518, at least 6 pregnancies. One son, Henry, Duke of Cornwall, lived 52 days. London celebrated with bonfires when he was born. 6 weeks later, they buried him. The rest was stillborn, or died within hours. Only one child survived, Mary, born 1516, who would grow up to become Mary I of England. 6 times Catherine prepared a nursery. 6 times, nearly every time, she had to unprepare it. There is no surviving record of what that actually did to her, week after week, year after year. Only the fact that she kept going. Modern historians have wondered whether a rhesus blood incompatibility explains the pattern. A condition where each pregnancy after the first becomes harder to carry to term. In the 16th century, there was no diagnosis, no treatment, no understanding of why this kept happening to her, again and again. Henry needed a male heir. Not vanity, dynastic survival. after decades of civil war over the English crown. By the early 1520s, Catherine was in her late 30s. The pregnancies had stopped. Henry was 32 and running out of patience. Then Anne Boleyn arrived at court. Henry's attempt to annul the marriage became known as the King's Great Matter. 6 years of English politics, reshaping the country permanently. His argument was theological. He claimed the marriage had never been valid, because Catherine had previously been married to his brother Arthur. Leviticus chapter 20 verse 21, "A man who takes his brother's wife shall be childless." Henry argued this meant the marriage was invalid from the very start. Not a divorce he needed, but an annulment. A declaration it had never legally existed at all. One obstacle stood in his way: the Pope. Granting the annulment was technically within papal authority, but the Pope, Clement VII, was effectively a prisoner of the Holy Roman Emperor, Charles V, who happened to be Catherine's nephew. Charles was never going to let the Pope annul his aunt's marriage and declare her a woman who had never truly been queen. So the Pope stalled for years. And Catherine, who had every right to present her own case, did so with extraordinary skill and determination. June 1529. A special church court convened at Blackfriars in London to hear the case for the annulment. Both Henry and Catherine were required to appear. Henry appeared. He presented his case. Catherine appeared. She walked across the court, knelt before Henry, and spoke directly to him. Not the judges, not the court. Her husband. Her words survive. She told him she had been a true, humble and obedient wife, that she had loved the things he loved, that when she came to his bed, she was a true maid, without the touch of any man before him. A direct answer to the claim her marriage to Arthur had been consummated, the claim Henry's whole case rested on. Then she said, close to her documented words, that she appealed her case to Rome. She did not recognize this court's authority to judge her. She stood, she curtsied to Henry, and she walked out of the court. The room would have gone silent. A queen, in front of the king and every judge assembled to rule against her, simply refusing to stay and be judged. Nobody in that courtroom had ever seen anything like it. Nobody expected to see it again. They called her name 3 times. 3 times the court usher called for her. She never came back. She never appeared before an English court again. Catherine's refusal set a chain of events in motion she could not have anticipated, and would not have chosen. Unable to get his annulment from Rome, Henry broke England's relationship with the Catholic Church entirely. He declared himself supreme head of the Church of England in 1534. He dissolved the monasteries, hundreds of them, their land seized, their treasures melted down, their communities scattered. He executed those who refused to swear oaths acknowledging his supremacy, including Thomas More, once his closest friend, and Bishop John Fisher. None of that existed before Catherine said no at Blackfriars. All of it followed from it. He married Anne Boleyn, in secret, January 1533. The Archbishop of Canterbury, now Thomas Cranmer, a man of Henry's own choosing, granted the annulment Henry had wanted all along. Catherine was stripped of the title Queen, declared Princess Dowager instead, the widow of Arthur, as if her marriage to Henry had simply never existed. She refused the title. To the end of her life, she signed every letter, Catherine the Queen. She was separated from her daughter Mary, and forbidden from seeing her. Moved between a series of increasingly remote and damp residences, her household reduced, her health declining, she and Mary never met again. Even isolated, even stripped of her title, she kept writing. To the Pope, to her nephew the Emperor, to anyone who might still recognize her as Queen. She never once in all those years signed a letter with the name Henry had given her instead. She died January 7, 1536, at Kimbolton Castle, 50 years old. The cause of death was recorded as heart failure, though some historians have noted the symptoms were consistent with cancer. Her last letter was to Henry. It ended, close to her documented words, "I make this vow, that mine eyes desire you above all things." Henry wore yellow when he heard the news. He held a jousting tournament. Anne Boleyn miscarried a son 11 days later. Catherine of Aragon never set out to create the Church of England. She set out to remain Henry's legitimate queen. But her refusal, grounded in genuine religious conviction and genuine pride, made the English Reformation inevitable. If she had accepted the annulment, Henry likely stays a Catholic king. The break with Rome happened because one woman would not let him simply walk away. The Church of England exists because Catherine of Aragon said no. Elizabeth I, the Protestant queen who shaped modern Britain, was Henry's daughter by Anne Boleyn. She existed because Henry needed to be free of Catherine. The Protestant England Elizabeth built was the direct consequence of one woman's refusal. History is rarely tidy. The things Catherine fought hardest against, the annulment, the new church, Anne Boleyn as queen, produced a world she wouldn't have recognized and wouldn't have wanted. Think about that for a moment. A devout Catholic woman, fighting with everything she had to stay married inside her own church, ended up, entirely by accident, the reason that church lost England forever. She would have hated almost everything that came after her refusal, and none of it happens without her. But the woman who walked out of Blackfriars and refused to be called anything but queen, she shaped the world more than almost anyone in it. She just didn't mean to change the world. She only meant to keep her marriage. Thanks for watching. Inkling History, digital lino cut, carved on the iPad, animated with a bit of AI help. One thing before you go. She signed every letter Catherine the Queen until the day she died. Would you have fought that hard? Or let it go? Tell me below. Subscribe. Jane Seymour is next.